Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Meg Campbell, who is a personal trainer and wellness coach, and she has also co-authored the book Personal Wellness Diary. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me again.
It's good to have you back. Can you tell us, you've had natural home births with both of your children. Can you tell us about that experience and what it was like for you?
Sure, I'd love to. Both children were born at home in a birthing pool. We had planned home births and we had a doctor present and two midwives for my son's birth, Cooper, who is now 8, and Willow, who is 4. We had two midwives at the birth. And I think it was a really beautiful experience, to be honest. It was an environment that I was really comfortable in, which I think certainly helps with the birth process. And both births were I don't want to say easy. They were just beautiful experiences.
Yeah.
So,
and was it still painful, as most
painful?
births are?
It's an interesting question because there was pain, I'm sure there was pain, but my natural pain relief was the water, and I'm really comfortable in water. So I didn't need any pain medication or anything like that. The water sort of took care of that. There's still definitely a pain sensation, but it's a very interesting thing. You don't see it as pain as you would if you had just done a marathon, or it's just a different sort of pain. It was beautiful.
And what about the doctors? So you actually had a doctor come to the home birth. How did that come about?
I actually started in a private hospital. I went to an obstetrician appointment there, and I was really uncomfortable and knew that it really just wasn't for me. I know the importance of hospitals, and I don't think that people shouldn't have births in hospitals or anything like that. But for me, it was just really impersonal. The obstetrician was, sort of running to a clock, and I felt when I left there, wow, this is not the sort of experience that I want or have expected. And so I went and saw a doula, and she put me onto a doctor who delivered babies at home, and works very closely with midwives. So one of my midwives had about 40 years experience, beautiful lady, Jan Ireland, and the doctor was there for Cooper's birth, but we didn't have the doctor for Willow's birth, but we had the two midwives who highly capable, experienced, wonderful support.
And you didn't feel you needed the doctor for Willow's birth?
No, I didn't actually, and I didn't even feel I needed it for Cooper's, but I sort of went along with the advice of, it's your first birth and have someone else present.
Yeah.
He actually turned up about 10 minutes before Cooper came out. So the midwives were doing all the work up to that point, and I was doing all the work, I guess, up to that point.
And was it a gentle experience as well, like a loving,
gentle experience? It was a really gentle experience. I couldn't have asked for a better birth experience with either of the children. My husband and I laboured together for about 4 hours, and then called the midwives, and then the doctor came for the first birth, and then in the second birth, Willow was very ready, so it was about a 45-minute from woe to go. Very, very quick, very different experience, but both still in the water. And Cooper was really involved in that birth as well. He he massaged my back and he poured water over my back, and he
yeah.
was really, it was very beautiful.
Was he getting scared at all for you?
No, he wasn't
Yeah.
scared at all, but we
Yeah.
had done a lot of
Preparation.
we'd done a lot of
Yeah.
preparation. There's a beautiful book called Hello Baby about home births, and we would read that to him constantly,
Yeah.
and he just felt he didn't know any different.
Yeah,
So to him it
yeah.
was just the way it was,
Yeah.
and it was really, I was very fortunate. I had uncomplicated births,
Yeah.
I had uncomplicated pregnancies, I was fit, I was healthy, and I also had a backup hospital in case anything went wrong, which was 5 minutes down the road. But no, I think because I was so comfortable, the
Yeah.
births were a lot easier, and I think that that's part of the problem, is that birth has become a very fearful thing, and we're designed to do it.
It's like the most natural thing on earth.
It is.
Yet it's become such a clinical thing now,
It has, yeah, it has. And as I said earlier, I really firmly believe the hospitals play a very important role, and some women are far more comfortable in hospitals. My friends would have said to me that they would never have had a home birth. They were far more comfortable in a hospital. So it's
each one makes their own choice. Yeah, in the end.
absolutely, and I didn't feel like it was it was a very educated choice that I made.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you did actually some preparation
I
as
did
well,
a lot
and
of
educated
research.
yourself.
Yeah, I did a lot of research. I also did calm birth, which really prepared me emotionally and physically and mentally for the experience. I did a lot of meditation.
And for our viewers' information, can you tell them what calm birth is?
Sure. Calm birth, it's normally done as a course. I actually did it privately because I started a little bit later into my pregnancy. But it works with really educating the woman about each stage of pregnancy, what to expect, how to breathe in each stage. You do a lot of visualisation, a lot of meditation, and just more than anything, it just empowers you to feel very comfortable with the birthing process and what's going to be happening, and know what to expect. And it just is exactly what it was, just a very calming experience. So lots of breath work.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful program.
So was calm birth, was that educating you through the whole pregnancy? And can you tell us about that? And it's not just the end result.
No,
Yeah.
it is a course that you can do throughout the whole pregnancy. I started a bit late, so I had private classes with Lael Stone, who was my
Supervisor or teacher?
Yeah, she was my teacher, and Steve was involved, my husband, as well.
Yeah, that's good.
So it is throughout the pregnancy that it's available to you.
And did you do research on home birthing particularly?
Oh, absolutely, I did. Yeah, I did. I spoke to several people, professionals, and to doulas and midwives and people who had home births, and I also read several wonderful books.
Beautiful. All right, we're about to go to a break now.
Okay.
You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community, and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
What I love about Australia is Adelaide Central Market. It's where I grew up, hanging out with Mum and great Auntie Kim. I see a lot of migrants buying ingredients that they need to cook dishes that remind them of their culture. And I think that's why food is such a powerful thing when it comes to people understanding each other. On Australia Day, I'm going to come to the market, buy some beautiful produce, take it home, crank out the pizza oven and have a little pool party with my mates.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Meg Campbell, who is a personal trainer and wellness coach and also a co-author of Personal Wellness Diary. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Mirella.
And for the viewers who haven't heard that name, doula, can you explain what the name doula means?
Sure. A doula is a qualified birth support person and also really great at giving advice on what type of birth you are wanting to have, helps you with your birth plan, and there as a support person.
Okay. And all of this, having the home birth, the doctor at home, the midwives at home and the doula at home, is that a very costly...
It was more out-of-pocket expense than had I had my children in a hospital. But for me it was worth it because it was exactly what I wanted and the environment that I felt most comfortable in. And
also bringing up your children naturally and healthily. How did you bring up your children? I mean, they're still children, but you breastfed them
I did actually, I did. I was fortunate enough to feed both my children for around 2 years.
That's
and good. They have really robust, healthy immune systems. They get the odd cold and things, but they are both great eaters. Cooper's a little more picky than my daughter Willow, but they have a really varied diet. So they're both very well and healthy and happy children.
Yeah, and fit too, aren't they?
They do. They enjoy their.
I saw you down at the park, and Willow was only, I think, a few years old. I don't know how she might have been 2 or 3 then. She'd ridden her tricycle,
that's right,
her scooter all the way down.
Yeah.
And also, as far as motivational tips for other people who are trying to get fit and trying to get healthy and want to start perhaps on their own, what sort of tips can you give someone to encourage them if they can't perhaps afford a personal trainer, but they really do want to get their life in order, and they just don't have the finances to get a personal trainer? How could you help them with some advice?
Great. I think that small steps is always the key when people are first starting out. So just knowing that anything that they're doing is better than doing nothing and not setting unrealistic expectations of themselves. So start by deciding I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, and then once you're out you might feel like walking for longer, and then you might feel like running, and just doing it in small steps is the way to go. Keep away from extreme behaviours, so whether that's extreme exercise or extreme dieting or anything that's not sustainable. There are lots of resources online these days where you can have personal trainer online, you can have yoga classes online, and a lot of them are free resources.
Oh, wow.
So you could just Google that, free personal training or free
that's good.
yoga or whatever it may be. Join a group exercise. I have a little group exercise class I do out on the beach and have done for the last 12 years, and that's a far more affordable option. Join a friend, whatever it takes in terms of getting out there and moving, and probably most importantly, find something that you enjoy doing, because no one wants to go out and do something that they hate doing. You just won't stick to it. So if it's dancing in your lounge room with some tunes on, it's still movement, it's still exercise, it's bringing you joy. It doesn't have to be clinical and structured.
Okay. And also outdoor activity is probably better as well, isn't it?
Sure,
because you get the
you can
benefit
use
of the
the
sun.
park, you can... There are so many things you can do. All you need is a pair of runners, and these days you don't even need a pair of runners. People are barefoot running and walking and grounding themselves close to the earth. So really it's just a matter of deciding how you want to feel and how you can get there, just small steps if you're just starting out. But as I said, there's lots of available resources online as well.
Okay. And do you ever get overwhelmed with, like, if you get a lot of clients who are all overweight, do you ever get overwhelmed and sort of think, oh, I'll start putting on weight now because they're all overweight, and I'm sort of mixing with people that are like that you actually start eating more because you're putting so much into it? Does it ever affect you in that way?
No, I think it would be the complete opposite for me. I think it motivates me to stay healthy and fit and feel good. And I think that when people, there's so many reasons people put on weight, Mirella. Some people are training really hard and eating all the right foods, and they don't shift weight, and it's because they're stressed or they're not sleeping. Stress is a really big one. So a lot of my work with my client base is surrounded by how do we bring stress down in your life, because you don't achieve the things you want to achieve physically, mentally, emotionally if you are under stress, and most of us are having, you know, it's a fast-paced world we live in these days. So bringing the stress down and identifying where the stress is coming from. It's not always just from your workplace or just from your family life. There's so many stresses, and it comes down to nutrition. Is your nutrition stressful on your body? Are you sleeping well? Do you exercise regularly? Do you have joy in your life? Do you practice gratitude? All these things that bring good feelings to our body alleviate stress, and it's the stress that makes people hold weight a lot of the time because of the hormone cortisol that's released into the body when you're stressed.
And also, is there guilt that comes into it? Because you think, if I'm exercising for me, I'm not looking out for, you know, all the rest of the people.
I don't know that I would
life.
say guilt. For me, I just, as I said, I think in the previous show, I love feeling good. I love moving. I love ticking the boxes with all of that stuff, and I love not being extreme. There was a time in my life I was extreme with my exercise and my competing, and it's nice to be at a balanced point, and I think that's a nice place to be. So I don't think I don't feel guilty about if I'm not doing the right thing, because I tend to do the right thing.
No, not you. I'm just saying with the clients, when you said the causes for their overweight might have been stress, and I was thinking maybe it's also guilt. They feel like if they do something for themselves, they're being selfish, so they still eat and they still do all these other things that's negative.
Yeah, I definitely think it can be a real, I've worked with a lot of mums, and it can be a real battle for mothers to put themselves first. And it's a lesson to be learnt and learnt quite early on, because you don't need a huge amount of time. You can have 10 minutes breathing time, and that can be nourishing for you. You know, you can practice 10 deep breaths at night, and that's nourishing for you. You can go and have a bath or read a book or go out for a walk. It doesn't have to be that you're allotting or allocating 2 hours a day to your stuff. And I know, as well as anyone, it's difficult to put yourself first, but important.
All right, on that note, we have to go to a break.
Okay.
You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage, because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, These humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
If you choose to drink then drive,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's,
your family's,
or your own.
Choose not to instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Meg Campbell, who is a personal trainer and wellness coach and also co-author of the book Personal Wellness Diary. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Mirella.
And can you tell us, what sort of clientele do you work with?
I work with a really diverse range of clientele, actually. Having done it for 20 years, I think my clientele has sort of followed periods in my life. So I used to work with a lot of athletes. When having children, I specialised in pre and postnatal training, so to help women through their pregnancies. I work a lot with people who are just trying to change their well-being. Basically, I do lots of wellness coaching now, which is more of a conversation and assessing where people are at in their lives, how they want to make change, if there's change necessary, how confident they are, and then taking the small steps to achieve a bit of a vision for them. So my work really varies. I've done a lot of rehabilitative work. I don't work specifically with bodybuilders, obviously people who are wishing to change their physique, but that's not my main passion. It's about all those other things that I do. So lots and lots. I work with corporate groups.
Okay.
All sorts of people.
And how many hours would you be working a day?
In a day, it really varies. Probably in a week, I try not to go over about 25 hours because well, up till now, I've had Willow at home as well, so it encroaches on my time with her, but that's contact hours, and then there's all the administrative stuff that goes along with that.
Okay. And what advice could you give, say, some people who have been overweight all their life and for years, and they would really like to shift it, lose it? How would you advise them? Because, you know, you hear of people that have actually died and they've died overweight. It was something they wanted to do before they died, but they didn't do it.
Yes.
So is there something to help people to, why is this such a problem? Why is it what is this block that's stopping people?
Yeah, look, I think people are overweight for different reasons. So it's a tough question to answer straight out, but I think that the most important thing is to actually look at everything that's going on in someone's life. So it isn't just about prescribing more exercise or prescribing a really clean diet. You really have to look at what's happening within their life emotionally. Stress is a really big one, as I mentioned earlier. Stress is a huge one for weight gain. Sleep is another one for weight gain. So you want to look at what's happening in someone's life in all different aspects, and then take it from there. So if someone's really stressed, that's what I would work on, and prescribing exercise that's very intense for that sort of person will actually bring more stress to the body. So we maybe go down a different, more restorative path with exercise in that case. So it really is such an individual thing, and I think that that's where my passion comes in, is identifying what's happening with someone and really delving into it and individualising it, because there really is no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. And with your clients, have you watched them, have you had clients that have been overweight when they started and they've lost the weight, reached their goals when they've worked with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a really rewarding thing for both of them and myself, but very rarely do you achieve that by only focusing on one thing, as I said. So the exercise is a very small component of what I do with people and how I work with people. But yes, definitely. I mean, some of my clients I've been with for many years, and they've been through major transitions in that time. So
that's what I was going to ask you. How long do you usually stay with a client?
It really depends. It depends on why they're with me. I have clients that I mentioned on the last show that I worked with his rehabilitation. He's 16 years later, he's still with me.
So he's still working with you now?
He's still working with me now.
Wow.
So yes, it just depends. Some people are doing short-term. I've got a lady at the moment who's just training up to her wedding. And then there's other people I've been with for many, many years. So
okay. And so how often would they see you? Say, for example, this skier, how often would he see you?
He only sees me once a week, but he's really disciplined about doing his own movement and practicing good health in the meantime. And some people I see 3 times a week, some people I see once a month to keep them on track.
And is his body, the skier, is his body completely restored from his injury?
It is, yes.
So everything's come back?
Well, all of his function has come back.
Oh, that's good. So he didn't have it, wasn't complete. That's fantastic. That's great.
It is. It's a wonderful story, actually. He's done very, very well. He's limited in his mobility a little bit, but it doesn't stop him. He's quite determined.
Yeah. There's a few people out there that have just sort of conquered things, haven't they? They've been told they won't be able to do something, or probably won't be able to do something.
And it's sort of a bit of fuel for them. It makes them go.
Show you that if I do this, I can.
Yeah. A lot of mental strength there as well.
Do you find that, what sort of courses did you have to do? You've done counselling courses as well,
I have. I've done counselling courses. I've done specialist pre and postnatal. I've done speed agility courses for my athletic coaching and strength and conditioning. I am one of those people that I will do courses every year. So over the 20 years, I started with a human movement degree, Bachelor of Applied Science Human Movement. I then went on to a Bachelor of Education, teaching, and then every year I update and do further courses and further study. So I think you need to do that because it just keeps you fresh. Things do change in the industry. And you want to keep on top of everything that's going on in all the aspects.
And did you do a course in rehab as well?
In rehabilitation, yes, and worked very, very closely with a physiotherapist for a long time. We worked really closely with her clients, so I've learned a lot from her as well. So...
Oh, that's good. That's unreal. And so in the future you hope to start like a retreat centre, like a wellness...
I would, my vision is to be involved in a wellbeing centre. And that's always been my vision, but with having the children, I didn't want to take away that time that would be needed. They're both at school next year, so we'll see where things take me. Moving forward.
But you wouldn't live there at the wellness place? Like it wouldn't be like a retreat centre would be like a one-off thing, you'd say... You'd organise it somewhere else.
Yes, and you can do overseas retreats and all sorts of things. And I think the retreats are really affordable retreats. Just a really lovely thing for people to do.
Again. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's been great having you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You've been watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest was Meg Campbell. Hope you enjoyed the program. See you again soon.
Hold it right there. Have you done your pool safety check? Maintain the barriers, check the gate, and never leave anything that can be climbed on near the fence. Have you brushed up on your CPR skills? And don't tempt kids with toys. Tidy up.
Is that all?
When kids are around the pool, keep watch. They need your attention all the time. Okay, in we go.
Download your free home pool safety checklist and help Royal Lifesaving make this weekend your home pool safety weekend.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Visalala, who's a member of the African community in Melbourne. Thanks for coming in, Visalala.
You're welcome.
Your background, to start with, you were born in Angola.
Yes.
And you left there when you were about 8 months old, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was because of the conflict there?
That's right. It was because of the civil war that started in 1975.
Then you went from there to Zambia.
Yes.
What happened there?
Basically, what happened was, I guess my memories of Africa are all of Zambia, because that's where I remember the most. I mean, having left at 8 months, I had no memory of what what life was like in Angola. So all I remember of Zambia is living there and growing up. I went to school there. I ate, I slept, I had friends, and obviously I remember being aware of the fact that I was, a refugee from across the border, because I spoke Portuguese and I spoke English at the same time. And I guess culturally we're slightly different from, the people in the Zambian population. So those were my memories.
You described the situation in Zambia as being very transient because of the neighbouring countries.
Yes, Zambia is a very interesting country if you look at it geographically, where it's located, and if you look back at the time that I was there, 1986, there were a lot of conflicts around all the countries that Zambia basically borders with. When you think of the Congo, I mean, obviously there's still a little bit of conflict there now, so that borders with Zambia as well. And you had Angola, which is where I come from. There was a civil war. And across on the other side, there's Mozambique. There was a civil war. Malawi, there was a civil war. Even countries just a little bit farther up, Tanzania, there were a little bit of unease there as well. And I also remember growing up or meeting people from Uganda, which again is close to Tanzania. And again, there was a civil war there as well. Going south, you had the apartheid movement in South Africa. So there were a lot of also South Africans who part of the ANC who had moved into the country to escape obviously apartheid and prosecution from the apartheid movement. But you also had people from Namibia who had also left Namibia because of the apartheid movement and had somehow found themselves in Zambia, again, escaping persecution.
So it was a real melting pot. What did it look like? You were only young, of course, but you would have been mixing with people from a lot of different countries. And
I feel very fortunate, because I think I met a lot of the very idealistic Africans, because they were the people who were at the forefront of a lot of the movements that then, unfortunately, the negative side of it is obviously the civil war, the ugliness, but no one actually ever looks at the positive side, that these people were trying to get change because they didn't have change. Nowadays we look at South Africa and we obviously praise Mandela and say, oh great, look at what the ANC has done, look at Mandela has led the ANC through this political change. But there were a lot of other countries in Africa where the same thing was occurring at the same time, whereas they literally have not received the same kind of praise as South Africa has gotten for changing the political dialogue that existed there since the beginning of colonialization. Angola was affected by the same thing, even longer than South Africa was, for about 500 years. I mean, that's one thing that people don't historically look at. Namibia, through South Africa, also the Dutch, they were also affected by the same thing. So there were a lot of very young, idealistic revolutionists, intelligent, they had studied either overseas or through some of them had studied at the top universities overseas or even in the top universities in their own country. And those were the people that, as a child, I was accustomed to associating with.
So it was a pretty exciting environment, really, environment of change.
Well, yes, at the time it was a very environment of change. Now, I know when people ask me about, what was it like, I guess they're expecting a rather, oh, it was terrible, it was hard, or this and that. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how those people survived or what they did or whether did they kill, did they do this or whatever. That's actually was never relevant to me. My relationship with them was as a child. They were always very polite, very nice to me. They never seemed miserable or unhappy, regardless of whatever the situations that they were going through. I remember some of, I guess, my mother's and father's friends who were from South Africa. Obviously, they've been basically running away from the apartheid movement. Yes. So I'm guessing they would have had a lot of side issues there. But from my perspective, they always looked happy, It was always about, oh, there you are, greetings. We used to eat together, talk, and I commend my parents for having kept me, I guess, sheltered from whatever might have been going on, but I never got a sense of any problems.
So your experience at that point of Africa was reasonably positive. It was nothing.
No, I don't remember having any negative or hating it or thinking that, God, I can't wait to get out of here. Obviously I was aware that I was living in someone else's country, which was pointed out to me, by the locals. But it wasn't. I never felt like I was in any physical danger. Right. It was the fact that I was in the wrong place, and in 1986 the war in Angola had probably been going on for almost 11 years, and it ended up going on for maybe another 11, so that would have been, the war went on for about 27 years. Right. So that's another 12 or so. 12 years, yeah. No, actually more than 12. That would have been 15 years, or 16 years. Yeah. So it went on for another 16 years from the time that I left. So basically from, I guess, I'm trying to extrapolate from my mother's perspective, not knowing when the war would end or when we would go back, I guess there's a sense of limbo. Yes. Of just, you don't know what the future is going to be like. So ideally, I think we would have liked to have gone back, but that wasn't actually a choice at the time. Didn't happen. No.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about you coming to Australia.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment.
Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetart.org.
Come on, fellas. Let's get down there.
Hang on. Where's Dave?
Oh, hey, fellas. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh?
Real men look out for each other. Don't let your mates drink and drown.
Hallelujah,
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Visalala, and she's an African resident in Melbourne. You then left Zambia for Australia, and you came as a refugee family. What was that like, arriving as a refugee family? What was the story?
Well, at the time I didn't think, when I first left Africa or Zambia, getting on the plane, I thought nothing of it. It was just like we were moving from another town to another town. I'd never heard anything about Australia. I had no idea where Australia was. I had no idea what language they, well, I guess I got told they spoke English in Australia. Obviously that wasn't going to be a problem because I'd been speaking English since since I started speaking. So when I started speaking, I could speak Portuguese and English at the same time, and I'd picked up 3 or 4 other African languages just from moving around the country. So I really, as a 9-year-old, really didn't think I had any issues, any problems that I had to worry about. I was a little bit upset that I was leaving my friends behind again. And I guess when you're moving around as much as we did, you were always leaving something behind. So that, wasn't something I was basically looking forward to. I didn't really think of the kind of friends I was going to make. Didn't bother me. I guess I was getting older and starting to form physical attachments, or at least physical attachments to friendships. And anyway, so when we arrived, we actually came here via Perth, Sydney, Melbourne. I remember it being colder than I'd imagined it was going to be. They told us it was summer. We arrived here in November. That was going to be really warm. Instead, it was like cold. So we actually, went prepared for the climate. And unfortunately, we weren't prepared for a lot of the other things that we were told were going to be, but didn't happen. So unfortunately, our expectations that, once we came into Australia, all our lives were going to be like easy and better. That was one of the misconceptions that I think my parents had, and in essence, myself. So what happened instead is realizing just how hard they would have had to work just to, maintain the basic our basic needs, which they did. Well, they weren't complaining, but it was the assumption that my mother, who was a teacher, and my father then, who had a business degree, they thought they were able to continue their careers, but that was actually, they didn't have those opportunities to do so. So they had a choice of either work in a factory, or your degree is invalid here, or go back to university. And with 4 kids, that's obviously not an option that you're going to consider.
No. What we were discussing earlier, we were talking about the tragedy of being a refugee. You made an interesting point about what you think the tragedy is of being a refugee.
Yes, well, whenever I meet people, they always ask me, "Oh, what was it like? Was it terrible? How being a refugee?" And one of the things I always tell them is that my life changed not when I came to Australia, because they want this happy ending story about, oh, you come to Australia and your whole life is like just starts over. But for me, the tragedy has been the change for me began when I first left my country. Whether I was aware of it or not, it didn't matter. But once I left, it meant everything else that happened to me was a result of my leaving. Having to migrate to Australia was a result of my leaving Angola in the first place. And that was a result of the Civil War, which, like I mentioned to you before, was also a fallout of the Cold War between the US and Russia. I mean, no one ever talks about it. I try to, as we were discussing it before, it was never a result of religious reasons, or the divisions within the country were not religious. They weren't because of tribal, as it's often referred to, that in Africa it's all about, the conflicts are all about tribal warfare. It was never that. It was all about ideology. And those ideologies that people strongly believed in terms of the direction that they felt they wanted Africa to go to in the future, is what kept them divided. And on top of that, we have the US on one hand and Russia on the other hand, influencing different the different political parties and also political ideologies and fueling it. We had the Cubans who were in Angola for for 27 years.
Yes.
They fought the war on the side of the current political party that's in power. And Reagan gave us a lot of money to the other opposition side, over 21 million to buy arms at the time. So this is what made the war continue on for as long as it did.
So it goes on, and there was you also mentioned it as a young child, and there's a lot of migrant children. I would call them migrant children rather than refugees, but refugees as well, who come at about 7, 8, 9 years old. Now, you mentioned something about having a little bit of an angst. Angst, yes.
And I feel very angry. I feel angry that I had to leave the country that I was born in, that I never got the opportunity to grow up there. And that anger, we were talking before about where it's directed. And for me, I can't direct it at my parents because they did what they thought was best for me. And so it's almost that you direct it to, you try to basically make sense of it. And then whose fault is it? And then you look at people like the US, and you look at, the Cold War, you look at Russia, and you look at, at the end of the day, they're the ones who kept the war going for as long as it did. So my anger, unfortunately, is directed at a lot of the colonial powers at the time that were actually manipulating and controlling the situation. And I feel more like a victim of the
Cold War.
Cold War,
yes,
more than a victim of a civil war.
And as a child, when you move from some place like that, you're not the decision maker.
No, I wasn't the decision maker, and there was a sense of I felt like a suitcase when we left. And when I first said to you why I had no emotions landing in Australia. It was simply, we're going to this country, it's meant to be better for us. I went, okay, well, that's fine. I was never asked for my opinion, what I thought of it, whether I wanted to come. And when I got here, the reality of it for me was completely different to the reality for my parents. I remember growing up, I was happy, I didn't have any problems with the people around me. So coming here, I had a completely different kettle of fish to deal with, Well,
we'll deal with that kettle of fish in a moment because we're out of time. We'll be back in a moment.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
Would your life be different if you chose to swim between the flags instead of that unpatrolled beach? If you'd checked the depth before you dived into shallow water, if you didn't swim under the influence of alcohol and chose not to swim at night, if you only listened to the lifesavers' warnings.
Make the right choice this summer. Enjoy our beautiful beaches. Always swim between the red and yellow flags.
If we can't see you, we can't save you.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Visalala, who's a member of the African community in Melbourne. Now, arriving here, a little African girl, 9 years old, into school. What was that like? What was schooling like? What happened there?
It was a shock to the system, and not in the way that a lot of people would think. It wasn't it wasn't an academic challenge. The schools that I came from were more than adequate in terms of teaching me everything I needed to know up to the level that I was at. It was the shock was how I was then treated and referred to as an African person. Before I came here, I never thought of myself as black. My identity was around my nationality and my family. But when I crossed into Australia, all that got washed away. My nationality was no longer, an issue, or it was no longer given significance. And I was given a lot of a sense of self-pride from my parents about being Angolan and being strong and fighting for your rights, as obviously that's why we ended up in a war for 27 years, a civil war, because everyone has very strong sense of who they are. And coming here, I got reduced to someone who was just black. And where I don't have a problem with being black, obviously I am black, but it's not what defines me as a person. It wasn't what defined me as a 9-year-old, and it still isn't what defines me now. What I found was people had very negative stereotypes of Africans that I previously wasn't aware existed. Things around people, just a lot of the children, around the same age as me, would avoid me for as much as they could. Whenever it came to group activities in class, they would pick me being the last person, and the only reason that they gave was basically I was black, and they felt that in their minds as a black person I had to be treated a certain way, and that would be the last person to be picked because I wasn't as good as they were. They had this belief in their heads that they were better than I was, simply based on their skin color, and as an inferior person I had to be treated as such. And there was one particular girl who kind of led the vendetta or the charge against making sure that my place at the bottom of the pecking order was maintained. She would basically do things like, if someone even made a point of picking me before someone else, she would point it out that no, she needs to go down here because you're not picking her, are you? She's black, you're not picking her. We pick her last. So those things were the environment that I had to psychologically adjust to. And that obviously created a greater sense of social isolation, because I immediately had to deal with the fact that people didn't like me, not because I was Angolan anymore, but because I was actually physically black. And that was something I had no power over. Yeah, it was that I didn't feel powerless, but it was the sense of like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I never thought this was ever a problem. And along with the stereotypes of people didn't expect me to be very smart. When I first came here, they put me in an English speaking group because they felt that my English, for whatever reason, wasn't as good as the other students. And strangely enough, I didn't last in that group because my English wasn't a problem. At that point, I was actually speaking 4 languages. I was obviously more linguistically advanced than any of the kids in the school that I was at. But they'd made the judgment simply by the place where I'd come from. I'd come from Africa. I was African. Therefore, it was an automatic, placement into this English group without ever even investigating whether the country that I'd come from, whether they spoke English. And those kinds of assumptions and stereotypes, unfortunately, I felt like ever since then I've had to deal with either on a daily basis and unfortunately in almost every aspect of life that I've had in Australia.
And you also, when you came here, you would have been living in blocks of flats, or that'd be unfamiliar from your Zambian experience?
Look, yes, the environment in which, one of the biggest changes was also the environment and food. I remember living in a house in Zambia. It wasn't the biggest house, but it was a house. But it was also open. It meant that I could wander off to the next door neighbours. I knew who all the kids in the neighbourhood were. I would play with them before school or after school, whichever it was. Coming here, we then, once my parents found a job, they got an apartment in Maribyrnong. That apartment was, not only was it obviously small, but it felt like living in a box. All of a sudden, I went from being able to play wherever I wanted to play to being confined after school to basically being indoors. Automatically, I became more sedentary than active.
Yes.
And a lot of the activities that I would have done, like come home, go and pick mulberries off a fruit tree or guavas or things like that, were all cut off.
Yes.
And socially as well, I didn't know who my neighbours were. And the neighbours didn't even have any kids. If they had any, we'd never seen them before. So it meant that I didn't actually get to play with other kids because the kids at school wouldn't invite me to their houses because I was different. I had to wait until an opportunity arose with my parents' friends who were of similar backgrounds to socialise, and that might be once a week or maybe once a month. We relied on parties, social gatherings, you know. Yeah. Every time an African would come but at that time the African population was so small that every time someone new would come, everyone would know about it. Oh, yes. Everyone would gather and they'd throw a party to welcome them into the community. Okay. Yeah. So that's how I met a lot of, you know, the kids around my age group.
So it was very cohesive African group.
Yeah, at the time it was very cohesive African group, and I kept in contact, I know most of the people that I knew when I first came here 27 years ago, and I referred to them all as aunties and uncles, and we've literally grown up together.
Well, we're actually running towards the end of time, so in conversation you mentioned one thing which you probably will never be forgiven for. You don't like Vegemite.
Yes. I don't like Vegemite, yes. The shock of tasting Vegemite for the first time, I'll never forget it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, thank you so much, Visalala. And if we get the opportunity, I'd very much like to speak to you again to explore more about what it means to be a young African in Australia.
Thank you very much, Tom.
We'll be back next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
This is for my friend Heather. It's called Taking Out the Garbage. She told me she knew it was time to leave her husband when her only thought was that she'd have to take out the garbage. I watch you over the table, deep in the paper, sports section claiming your attention, face clean shaven, wearing the aftershave I have told you I hate. You appear as if blurred, features distorted so I no longer recognise them or you. Short back and sides replace the ponytail, new steel-rimmed glasses, and you've lost weight. I begin to collect the breakfast dishes, your toast crumbs, coffee dregs and marmaladed spoon, my herbal tea, muesli swept bowl. On impulse, I dye my hair fire engine red, so red that it screams. You still haven't noticed, and I already take out the garbage.
This is called Feeling for Change. I wrote this. I've been working in China for earlier this year, and I was on a bus. It's amazing how many people they can fit on buses in China. Anyway, I was on a bus, and it was the middle of winter. It was very cold, lots of snow and rain everywhere, and we were in a traffic jam in the middle of the city. So I wrote this from the back of the bus. His face presses the window. Waiting for his stop, he fingers the halo of mist around his mouth, almost drawing pictures. An eye, a nose, perhaps. But a smile would be too revealing. A smile might whisper to the crowd pressing in where he's from, where he's going. He wants to be somewhere he can see inside his own interior instead of looking out through this cold and misty eye into congested city veins as they hemorrhage, bleeding down footpaths, spirals around drains. Our nature is to flow, and although he judges harshly, his judgments are subject to the same laws, and they will in due course also change. The city does not belong to him nor he to it, neither king nor servant. He's just there in its midst, waiting for a wheel to turn, ignoring the windows weeping, tears on their way to far-off crops, waiting for the drawing of pictures to reveal he doesn't know what, but anything at all could mean something, waiting for a crowd of mouths to tell him what he may not want to hear, his fingers in the air, feeling for change while he's waiting for his stop.
Picket fence optional. She was never comfortable at weddings. Partly, it was dressing up in your Sunday best, mingling with people you had never met before and never would again, sharing no common interest or bond beyond that of knowing the bride and groom. Partly it was the bad food. Beef for the men, chicken for the ladies, the 80s music you had to dance to, and the DJ with a particularly loud liking for the village people. Partly it was being single and trying to find a man, any man, to drag along as a date, knowing that everyone knew he was just a friend. Mostly, it was seeing two people who believed they were in love. She knew by past experiences and observing vast quantities of friends, relatives, and even her parents, in 10 years' time, over 65% of them would be sitting in a lawyer's office, fighting over visiting rights of the 2.3 children, house in the suburbs, picket fence optional, and who had sole custody of the dog.
And this one is called Country is Dead. Nothing pleasant in her manufactured eyes, glassy inhabitants in a body like windows of logged country house, where the spinach is home grown, and the only medication for country asphyxiation, when scratched dandruff falls to the ground, not like the snow on cabins in Christmas flicks, but with her fingers that flick, boredom on her once wooden floor. Manic thunder growls from the cloud in her head, calling to the cloud in the sky, rumbling for another sound.
Breaking the news. I hold the phone tighter as my sister's voice fades into static, then silence. Picture her walking the backyard, trying to outpace the news she has to tell. She talks of her growth in her belly, and I instinctively put my hand on my own, feel my softness as I imagine what lies within hers. She has birthed 4 children, now something else waits its time. She talks of scans and tests, promises me she's staying positive, and her voice drifts, snags on fear. My hand on my stomach turns into a fist and I want to hit out, belt this shadow out of her. She tells me it's okay, that she loves me, something we have never said to each other before. And as she hangs up, my hand is still pressed uselessly against my own belly.
A lot of you will realise that it's not something I normally do. is read my own poetry at my own gig. But I will read these two. They're quite short. One is called, the first one is called Years Later. And if we reach the day when we meet again, what should I do? Kiss your cheek? Say, it's been a long time. Tell you that we were both wrong. Yet, if we do meet again, it would mean that we are still both alive, survived, in spite of each other. How did we manage that? And a rather short piece called Hemlock. And some of you will understand this and some of you won't. Never mind. Hemlock. I have heard it said that if Socrates was alive today, he would be Oprah Winfrey. Fortunately for us, Socrates is dead.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here, to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3. Yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett.
Now I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes.
It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos. It was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
I want to get the word out to blokes about a little gland called the prostate. It's only the size of a walnut, but it can cause a whole lot of grief. Prostate cancer deaths pretty much equal breast cancer deaths. The problem is, if you wait too long, it may be too late. It took one of my mates. Don't make me angry. Talk to your doctor about your prostate. And if necessary, get it checked. You'd be nuts to leave it to chance.
Bliss. Bliss is 5'7", achingly thin, strawberry plump lips and mirror eyes. She keeps her dreams in a mahogany chest by the bed and casts her thoughts as easily as dealing cards. She lives in a palace of crystal promises, all too aware of their sharp intent. At night, the mattress dips and sways beneath her as her husband's paws land on breast and thigh. Snuffling kisses down her neck begin his dance of love, his quick step. After, as she listens to his deep breath, turnings of a snore, she decides that happiness is a state like Queensland, overrated and too expensive to live in.
This is a musical poem. This is the shrinking and o'clock shadow is roughing my face to rawness. Will you grow a beard or shave it off? Either way will be fine with me. Until then, keep your jawline out of my line of fire. If I'm to have gravel rash, I'd rather create it myself.
I wrote this just recently because I was talking to someone and said I'd been married for 28 years and nearly together for 30 years. And the first thing this lovely young lady said was, "Wow, you must have so much in common." So I've called it chalk and cheese. To say we are chalk and cheese would be to undermine the cliche. He is coolly analytical, logical. I put into poetry what I struggle to understand. He listens to the Arctic Monkeys and some weird-ass band from Amsterdam. I believe that David Bowie is the best singer-songwriter ever. He can never find his keys or phone. Knows they are here somewhere. My phone is always in the second pocket of my handbag, my keys on the shelf to the right of the front door, exactly where I placed them. He raises his voice, yells and stomps around the house, slams doors. I keep things to myself and sulk and sulk and sulk. He is sociable, spends weekends visiting friends, family, anyone, anywhere. I would rather hibernate alone at home after being polite to hundreds of strangers all week. Yet, when his hand engulfs mine and he traces circles on my palm, when I see his face in the crowd knowing he is waiting for me, it all makes sense.
Connected through a shattered prism, two sides of the same coin, atheist and believer, each seeing the other through a glass darkly, the evil twin, the mirror image of themselves, each seeking the same goal, a better life for themselves and others, each locked together by their common humanity in the embrace of the ages. Misunderstanding, intolerance, jealousy, hatred, war, each denying the other the kingdom they seek themselves, never realizing they are connected through that shattered prism. What they wish for the other is what they obtain themselves.
And this one's based on a true story. My husband and I took my mother-in-law, not my idea, on a holiday to South Australia for 3 weeks because her husband had always promised her he'd take her. He died and son felt guilty, so we took her. It's called Still Life. They stop for lunch in a dry riverbed under a river gum that hasn't seen water for much too long. Put out folding chairs, eat sandwiches of white bread, cold lamb and green tomato pickles. Drink coffee from the thermos, homemade fruitcake studded with walnuts. The stillness broken by a crow's unoiled call and rustling leaves that remind the younger one of rain. The older woman pulls out pad and pencil, places the gum so gnarled they twist among themselves. Lines become the stone bed, shading hints at the red dust that stains their world. The other watches as the car appears, a chair added, figure sitting on it, an older figure, square of body, sketchpad in their hands. With a final flourish, she scrawls her name, closes the pad. She has drawn herself alone. The younger woman walks into the dryness, hands clenched into fists, tighten. Eyes shut against the water that wants to trace her cheek, knows the dry ground would absorb each drop, leave nothing to show. They drive in a quiet as grinding as the heat dancing outside the car. The young woman holds a steering wheel, white-knuckled. The older woman, face turned to the window, squints against the summer. The quiet broken as the talk-back radio talks and talks and talks into their silence.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
We always liked to play chess together ever since we were little. He was always a better player than me. When I was diagnosed with Pompei's disease in 2002, I was told that my life expectancy was going to be poor, and my condition deteriorated rapidly before I was able to start treatment. My brother and I both suffered from the disease. But now I consider myself the fortunate one. My brother spent the last 2 years of his life in hospital. He didn't have access to this wonderful treatment that should be available to everybody. The world just keeps getting smaller as you progressively lose the ability to walk. So your world shrinks, and then gradually you realise, I haven't been to the supermarket in 6 months.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying...
I'm 59 now, and every year I can see my daughter grow up is a blessing. I believe my treatment's made this possible.
To learn more and help those living with Pompei's disease, register at australianpompeii.com.
Juggling work and caring for Mum can be overwhelming. Having an understanding employer and access to support helps. I love my mum. I just wish I had some time to myself.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
And this one is for my nephews, Ryan and Harley. It's called Constellations. I wake in the grey light of pre-dawn to find the 7-year-old crawling into my bed for a snuggle. His octopus legs limp it tight, arms hold me snug. He talks of not being tired, not being naughty, so Santa should really come that night. His brother, 9 turning 10, tells me he is too old for early morning cuddles with his aunt, begins to talk of the solar system. He points to one of the lights in my room. If that light was the Earth, that would be the sun and that the moon. We talk of rockets and space, robots on Mars, and whether Santa's sleigh would travel that far. He crawls in the other side of the bed, hugs me as the younger boy leaves. Soon the call of cartoons scurry through the hallway. The older one follows the lure. I'm left wondering about the weight of stars and the void they leave when they are gone.
This is called Anchors Away. Driving home from the airport alone is surreal. How do I know for sure that the real me is here in the car and not on the plane with you? You see me now more clearly than I see myself. This is what I fear from love to disappear into another, so that when they are absent, I am too. Guess this sounds like an anti-love poem, not anti, just discombobulated. I don't much believe in romantic love anymore, but this is something else altogether. There are more rooms in the house than I remembered. The doors make a peculiar clunk when I close them. The living room rug is still curled up at the edge where we didn't get round to pushing it down. The TV's muttering, heater is buzzing, and I am floating. When did you become my anchor? Thanks.
He communicates in gestures and conspiratorial whispers. To him it's real, to me it's just a game. And everything he's being accused of, you'd think you'd know his name. He's done 3 times the crimes of Jesse James. Now he's had a rough trot right from the start. His story would just break about anybody's heart. When he was young, his mother didn't want his brother and he. So an orphanage had him by the time there were 3. And to make matters worse, they sent him overseas. Those damn bureaucrats will do bloody damn what they please. Then Grandma came, took Big Brother home, left the little fella all on his own. And wherever he went, he was the littlest bloke, the target of police and the butt of their jokes. But he never let 'em see him cry. He held it in, he'd rather die. And a good pool game ain't just a sign of a misspent youth. In Squeaky Tail's name, he climbed on every rich man's roof. And see those lines in his brow, they just didn't get there just anyhow. But fighting conscience late at night, full of hate and pain and fight. According to the boys in blue, he's a member of a tasty crew who robbed a van and then took flight, and to the heat they all sat tight, and they did alright, they did alright. And according to the boys in blue, he's been known to pull a hit or two. He hid in the shadows and shot through, didn't they spew? And according to the boys in blue, according to the boys in blue.
I was lucky enough recently to get one of the poems into the Australian Poetry Centre's Dear Dad anthology called PJ, and actually first time my dad ever heard me read a poem was I read the poem out at the open day on Sunday, and Dad being Dad decided a poem about him had to be cool, so he actually came along. So it took me all this time to figure out if I want anyone from my family to hear me read, write something nice about them. It's called PJ. You taught me how to bait a hook, that bees drunk on fermenting nectarines tickle your palm, to enjoy reading aloud and to become as one with the earth. You taught me to drive a 3 on a tree, column shift, baby blue Holden station wagon, to enjoy a good port, that rules are to be obeyed and which ones can be broken. You taught me that grief is okay, to believe in love, that quietly spoken doesn't mean having nothing to say.
Space. To think, to develop, to dream. The location of life after the verbiage subsides. Generator of all that matters. Never hurried. Disruptor of articulation. Opportunity to inhabit. Breach. Opening. Void. Breath. Yes. Yes.
Part of my job is I do a story time for Littlies, and it's interesting, all the songs and stories and rhymes I actually grew up with, taught my own children, they're no longer considered PC. Humpty Dumpty doesn't have a fall anymore. Did you know that? Baba Black Sheep cannot be sung because he's black. It's all these amazing things that you've got to, are really constricted. I don't follow those lines because I thought as long as no one dubs me in. So I wrote this, it's called Innocence.
It's on television.
All those mothers will now complain. Humpty Dumpty falls in her story time. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water under adult supervision. There was no accident, no incident requiring medical aid or the homeopathic remedies of vinegar and brown paper. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty joined a gym, cut out all fats and carbohydrates. Now does infomercials for the lemon detox diet. The world I grew up in no longer exists. Giants are now termed overly large people. Dwarfs are extremely short of stature, and the wicked old witch is now a senior practitioner of other faiths with an alternative lifestyle. If a princess were locked in a tower, her family would be charged with domestic abuse. Girls no longer wait for Prince Charming, and kissing a frog is so closely linked to licking a toad, it's considered the first step into drug abuse. We swaddle our children in bubble wrap, protect them from monsters, both real and imagined, yet keep searching for their innocence. Thank you.
I'm Mull, and the hunger for peace swells as I edge closer to you. You, living, talking, sleeping. And as the ravine between us gapes, the beguiling rope swings. It dances innocently over the gorge below, and so I begin the journey across the divide. A ginger step, another, teetering, swaying. Your brow furrows, your smile narrows, eyes quickly downcast, a sickening tear, a sudden gust. An awkward lurch, twine breaking, unravelling, cries stifled as words, frozen, their language lost, surrender to an icy wind. Tumbling, scrambling for a foothold, a tuft of grass. Courage dwindles to swift retreat and the inevitable climb. Cowering on safer ground, the air now still, the familiar taste of bitterness pervades. Thank you.
I sat next to God once on a train heading into the city, stopping all stations except Camberwell. He wore faded jeans, KT26s, and a T-shirt that said Mary's Homeboy. He was quiet, seemingly content to stare at the window into backyards of damp washing. Why, I asked, knowing he would understand. He spread his arms wide and shrugged. He got off amongst the suited clones of Parliament, then turned to me and said, "Because I said so."
You?
This is exactly what happened last time.
Oh, look, I can't believe they're not running in.
Trying.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you believe he works here with us? But did you hear about what he did last week? Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, hang on, he's coming.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay, you got two.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, look at him. That guy's a freak. Can you believe it? He won gold in the 100. Legend.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Hi, Ian Parmenter here from ABC's Consuming Passions, and it's absolute bliss to be on 15 fabulous minutes.
Things are cooking up today. Why is that?
Oh, that's because we are at the Good Food Show.
Peerers.
Do you like Teflon pans? Aren't they great? You can have your pan and eat it too. You don't need black pepper with Teflon pans. Remember this, folks. Why? Because you get all the crunchy black flakes off the bottom of the pan. Now, if this were Teflon and I did that, the next thing would be to go like that and actually scrape the Teflon off the bottom of the pan. Not possible in my pants, okay? We designed them on my own body shape as well. We gave them an extra thick bottom, if you want to have a closer look. Okay.
We're in a date with Jamie Oliver. Are you kidding
Tonight,
me?
we're dating him tonight. I'm chaperoning him the date tonight.
What, from this magazine?
From this magazine.
Miss Magazine or this magazine?
This magazine.
So that's a whole nother magazine.
See, win a date with the naked chef, go backstage and meet Jamie Oliver.
Oh. Now, I've been trying to do that.
There is. There's 3 mad women that have flown in from all around Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, for people who are interested in cooking, this is a good little mag.
Yeah, Australian Good Taste. Australia's most read food magazine. Actually, over 600,000 readers every month.
What's the second most read?
Second most read would be probably Superfood News.
Okay, because this is Australian, unlike the others, which are all European and foreign.
No, not at all. There's Australian Gourmet Traveller up in the corner.
Yeah.
That's your kind of more high prestige, kind of aspirational $6.95 kind of magazine.
So what would you learn out of this magazine here? Apart from a date?
Our kind of catchphrase is simple recipes that really work.
We've bumped into one of the visitors here today. What's your name?
Anne.
Hello, Anne. Now, tell me, how are you enjoying the show?
Very nice, very nice.
And where have you been around to?
Around all the stores, trying wine and all the food.
What's been your favourite stall so far?
Maybe the wine.
The wine? Are you a big wine fan?
Oh, I like wine.
White or red?
White.
Are you a good cook? Are you the cook in your family?
Yes.
Yes? So hubby doesn't help out?
No.
No, see. There you go. I'm not the cook in my family.
You've heard of going to a restaurant and ordering food? Well, now you can order Oxygen, and it comes with tantalising flavours and smells. What is this all about?
It's all about oxygen therapy and aromatherapy in one. This is the first bar in Australia to have selectable aromas. They're all aromatherapeutic aromas, and also some ones for fun. You can get chocolate, so you can have the flavour of chocolate with no calories.
Doesn't fill you up? Exactly. You know, some people get fat on the smell of chocolate, but
the chocolate hit and no calories.
So why would anyone want to come here and do this?
Because it's very therapeutic.
So instead of going to a bar, getting drunk and going home, which can be therapeutic, mind you, they're coming here, sticking a tube up their nostril and having a nice smell.
Having a nice smell and re-energising their bodies by having an oxygen-enriched breathing session.
It's fresh oxygen, 100%?
It's between 90 and 98%. It's pretty hard to get 100%.
Okay, and you're putting it in these bottles of water, these containers here, and it's just...
infusing, the oxygen's being infused with the aroma through the infusers.
Can you order a bad smell?
Oh, we don't have any bad smells.
I mean, obviously in the future it's going to go that way. They're a bit bored of the pretty little strawberry and the pretty little peach.
There she is, like a bad smell.
We won't come over here and... What is the scent? Tangerine Dream here. How's this one?
It's good. Just very
Smells
soft.
like tangerine?
Citrus, really citrusy.
Does it make your nose run?
No.
Tickle it?
Nah, not at all, not at all, no.
Well, let's just put menthol in it or something and get really high and just go crazy.
Eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus. Oh, can you imagine that if you've got a cold?
Bonjour, je m'appelle Gabriel Gatté. I'm Gabriel Gatté.
There you go. Because the French gets me every time. Oh, tell us.
Where does it get you?
Oh, wow. You don't want to know.
Okay.
Trust me. Tell me, how long have you been a chef for?
Well, I have actually been a chef for 30 years.
Wow.
This year I started in 1971. Do I look that old? Not quite.
Nah.
No, well, it just
Nowhere
goes
near.
very quickly. So yes, 30 years ago I started my apprenticeship, a young chef in France, in the Loire Valley, and I was really lucky to work with some great chefs, and I think that really made a big difference.
When did you actually come out to Australia?
I came to Australia in 1977. I arrived in Melbourne on Grand Final Day. 1977.
You remember it vividly.
So that was a bloody good introduction to the Aussie life.
Excellent. Look, are there any special dishes that you love to prepare?
Well, it is a question of mood. Whatever you do, sometimes in winter you feel like a soup, in summer you want a salad, sometimes you want seafood, but I think what is important is to learn to cook dishes all the time. When I say all the time, maybe once a month. Otherwise you get bored and you are not stimulated enough. So for everybody, learn to cook new dishes occasionally, learn new seasoning, become familiar with herbs and spices, invite your best friend in the kitchen, before you go in the bedroom, because after that there's no hops in the kitchen. Yeah, it's gone.
You won't be spending much time in the kitchen.
No, so start with the kitchen, have a glass of wine between the kitchen and the other thing, and have fun. It is a skill that everybody can learn. See, the spinach is, I would say it's now almost ready. By the time because we won't use it before a few minutes, before 10 minutes, this is just perfect. So we lose so much volume with spinach, but it is a marvelous and very easy vegetable to use.
Look, I'm taking tips from the professionals because I can't cook if my life depended on it.
Oh, well, I'll give you some private lessons.
Oh,
absolutely.
Oh, I get private lessons. How exciting. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks a lot.
Here I am with Lillian Frank, and you are dressed to the night today.
I was cold outside, but I'm boiling inside.
So I hope you didn't kill that animal, cook it and saute it and serve it.
It's not real, it's all fake.
Oh, that's good. Now, what brings you here today?
Well, interest in food and the things that go into new restaurants. My husband's opening a new restaurant, so he was looking at those things.
Oh, is he?
Yep.
And what sort of restaurant's that going to be?
He's always had restaurants. He had the Windows on the Bay and Lazar's and Petty Session.
So it's going to be in the same style as well?
Yeah, international food. And
now, you're a bit of a winery kind of person and a diner as well.
Oh, yes, I love my food. I don't drink.
You don't drink? Oh, well, there you go. That's good on for you. What's your favourite food?
My favourite food?
Apart from your husband's food at the restaurant.
I love Gilbert Lau's food. I love the flour drum. I love Chinese food. But his I like more than anybody else.
Oh, there you go. You're not into the takeaway stuff?
No.
No. Why not?
Because I can cook better than that. Why
you can cook?
Why should I take away when I can cook easier, quicker and better?
There you go. I think I'm going to have to get you cooking us a meal sometime.
Why not? I'd love to do that.
Well,
we're down here at the Good Food Show. We're scanning the audience just to see what everybody's up to today and this afternoon. We've bumped into this gentleman here. Can I steal you for a chat? Sure. How are you going this afternoon?
Thanks, good.
Excellent. You enjoying the show so far?
Very good, thanks. That's great.
And what brought you down here?
Try some wine, see some cooking demonstrations, and basically have a good time.
Are you a very good cook?
I'm a reasonable cook.
Yeah, well, you're beating me. Very good cook. He is a good cook? Oh, there you go. Everyone's vouching for you.
Well, sometimes I'm a good cook when I feel like cooking.
Curry's no, he's a very good cook for everything.
For everything.
Very modest.
Oh, there you go. You've got no worries. Are you ladies enjoying it?
Yes, it's very good. Thanks. Very good.
Good stuff, good stuff. Are you going to be checking out all of the demonstrations a little later on?
Yeah, been to some, yes.
Have you checked out Jamie Oliver?
I've seen him signing books, but that's as close as I've got.
He's a bit of a spunk, you know. Yeah, go and check him out. Well, look, enjoy the rest of your show, okay?
Well, it certainly is jam-packed here, and there's lots to see, lots to eat, lots to drink, and it looks like you guys have been drinking.
Not just yet.
Not just yet. You've got your 2 cups, you're armed and ready.
Just getting ready, yes.
So have you just arrived now?
No, we've been here to see 2 cooking sessions already.
Okay, who are they?
We've seen the lovely Gabrielle Gattet and Jacques Raymond before him.
Jacques Raymond?
Cooked the most superb quail dish.
Wow.
So try and get the recipe.
So you're a bit of a connoisseur in the kitchen then?
I am, but I'm better at eating than I am at cooking.
Do you find it, why do you come here to watch it for? Do you learn anything?
It's not, oh yes, it's not just to watch, it's to taste what's available for tasting and
what have you tasted so far?
Oh, I like the new Nausea pan chocolati.
Oh, chocolate, everybody's favourite. You were going to grab that chocolate, Claire, weren't you?
Oh, don't do that!
No.
It's one for SSD.
Shove it in. Where do you get your recipes from? Normally?
Most of them come from, really traditional recipes. So I might either get them from a restaurant, from a chef, from a friend who cooks.
And you have to constantly update and move with the times.
Yeah, and I think what we're doing is we're learning to make our food healthier. And certainly there's been the emphasis on that in Consuming Passions. That's what people like.
And you're learning yourself as you go, I guess,
I'm
in a way.
learning all the time. There's
It's one
never
of
any
those
end
jobs
to it.
that you do, isn't it, really? It's like, I mean, okay, people say, are you qualified, by the way?
No.
No.
No,
So
I'm a
there you
qualified
go.
journalist.
There you go.
And TV producer director.
How did you get into cooking?
I was thrown in front of a camera and I've never looked back.
But you do so well, you know.
I don't know about that, but I'll certainly have a good time with it.
I'm sure you've got a big following.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do
Yeah.
you love it? Do you find the passion now?
I'm still as passionate
about
about food.
Journalism.
I don't think I'll go back to being a journalist, but I still miss being a TV producer because that was what really gave me a
Oh, you can produce my show any day.
Because it's good fun.
So when are you inviting me over for cooking?
I think I
for
should
dinner?
invite you over for dinner probably next week after next.
Okay, I'll write that in my
back
calendar.
Margaret River because that's where I live.
Fantastic. What a set, what a location. Well, you're going out there now? You're going to do a bit of
Going
cooking?
out there after Jamie Oliver, can you believe?
Oh, big spot to fill after that one.
And then he's doing another set, and then I'm coming back in and doing another set. So.
Never ending.
No, I don't know who's going to be here at 7:30. We shall see.
And you're cooking different things each time?
No, same thing each
same
time.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that way by the third time you'll get it right.
I'll get it right by tomorrow.
I'm going to try and do a few things. I have with me Rod Barbie, who is a fabulous chef from Melbourne.
How are you?
Okay. From Because Restaurant. Now, what Rod does is the kind of simplicity that I believe in. And because I don't get out much on my own, I'm not allowed out much on my own. That's why I do the television program in the privacy of a studio where they can keep an eye on me. Because I wasn't safe doing this on my own, I did ask Rod if he'd come and help me. And he also knows a lot about food and wine, and I'm going to ask him some questions as we go. But I first of all would like to explain to you that sometimes even I don't know who I am. People say, oh, you're a celebrity. I don't believe such a thing as a celebrity chef. I'm basically a cook who loves to cook and who's loved to cook for Consuming Passions for 10 years. I had a wonderful time.
Keep watching because there's
more after the break.
Hi, I'm Rick Stein. You're watching 15 Fabulous Minutes.
chefs from everywhere, and of course you've imported yourself from England.
I have indeed.
Now, how do you find the food in Australia in comparison?
Oh, well, it's brilliant. The raw materials are really good. I mean, just the fish I'm going to be working on in a minute, it's just so wonderfully fresh. John Dory, same fish as we have over in England, but it's lovely big fish, really shiny, lustrous looking.
Now, you're very passionate about seafood more so, I noticed on your show, which is on Lifestyle here. Now, you cook in a restaurant as well, as do a television show.
Yeah.
How do you get time for yourself?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
You must love doing this, that's why.
I do, really. I mean, it's just, you know, my work's my life, really. I mean, I do get time off, of course, but...
what, a week here and there?
Yeah.
And you probably go fishing or something like that, right?
I do. It's shocking, isn't it?
Shocking.
I'll have to sort of feel a bit guilty about admitting it, but yeah.
Now, your show's really huge over there, and of course here as well, you've got a huge following. Is that quite overwhelming to know that people are tuning in from all around the world watching you?
Well, it is. You know, I was in, where was it the other day, and somebody came up and said, you know, you're big in Madagascar.
Oh my God, of all places. Madagascar.
I was trying to work out what language I'd be dubbed into, you know, but anyway, I was quite impressed with that.
Your shows, how many countries are you showing your...
Well, I mean, they're on sort of terrestrial TV, really only Australia, New Zealand and America and Great Britain, but of course now because of cable satellite TV, I'm everywhere, and I just, you know, I keep...
You don't need to work, really, do you?
Well,
reap the benefits of it all.
Yeah.
Now, have you found, like, chefs today, are they as temperamental as they used to be? Are they still, I mean, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
No, I mean, I think one of the sort of spin-offs of chefs being on telly is that they generally learn to behave a bit better.
I mean, you show that. You don't actually cut out the bits where you express your anger and your disappointment, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets you different to all the other shows that are out there. I mean, you're real. I mean, I've been a chef for many years, and I've worked with gentlemen like you who I just think, oh, if he throws another pan, I'm leaving this job, you know. How do your staff deal with you?
Well, I mean, I've got better over the years, but really I think the staff, you know, chefs are only, you know, it's just the number of times when you're sort of throwing a bit of a tantrum and you suddenly realise that the chef's trying to stop laughing, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. You're out there going to be cooking now, and we'll see some, obviously, some fish dishes.
You certainly will.
Enjoy.
Now we've stumbled across the wonderful wine stand. Now, one of my favourite wines. You've got to get into it. You have to get into it. Now we've bumped into an Adelaide gentleman by the name of Martin. How are you going today, Martin?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you enjoying the festival so far?
Fantastic. I was really amazed by the amount of people that have been here all day. You know, they've come in so early and have stayed on, so it's really good.
Cool. Now, tell me a little bit about the stand that you're a part of here.
We represent, I run this Adelaide version of it, and we represent Tisdall Wines. Tisdall Wines, are from Echuca, northern Victoria, on the Murray there, and we have a really fantastic range of wines from Chenin Blanc, Chardonnay, Cabernet blends, Shiraz, a couple of reserve wines, a Shiraz and a Cabernet, which are really nice and luscious wines, really good food wines. So.
Excellent. Well, look, how does wine and food go hand in hand? Do you think it's an important part of a meal?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're just together, and blending the two is probably one of the most interesting things you can do. I mean, a lot of people have come up today and asked, what should I have the Cabernet Merlot with? And a lot of people think that you have to have big, juicy steaks or something with any red, but Cabernet Merlot, can have with a heavy, like a duck or even chicken. Really, it's some of the white meat, veal or something like that.
So I know personally that I get very, very confused with what meal you're supposed to have with what wine, white wine, red wine, and all of that kind of thing. How does it work?
Well, I guess it's to do with how big the wine is itself and how big the style of food is. So if you have a dirty, great big porterhouse steak that's 18 inches thick, then you probably want a dirty, great big Cabernet to go with it. So it matches. A lot of people say, you can mix anything with anything. White with steaks, that's okay, but I really think that you really need the balance. Yeah.
Mr. Richard Frank here, one very well-known celebrity in the food industry. You've been doing it for how many years now?
Too long to tell you. It's too public here.
Too public. Twice my age. Oh, thanks. I'm feeling young now.
Oh, you are?
I look young. It's not true.
You look young, yeah. Well, I look younger.
Yes, I know. There you go. Now, how hard is it to run a restaurant in Melbourne?
How hard is it? It's not a way. It's not a means to an end. It's a way of life.
Yes.
If you like it, it's fantastic.
So it's a labour of love more than anything.
It's certainly not a way of making a quick buck, but it's an experience.
Because Melbourne's very dominated in restaurants. I mean, obviously, probably some of the best restaurants in Australia, give and take. There's a few in Sydney, because I think Melbourne's much better.
Melbourne is much steadier, much more dependable.
How do you corner the market?
You don't corner it, you earn it.
You earn it?
Yes.
So you've got to get the right chef in.
Yeah, we've got to have, well, you see, often I get asked, what makes a good restaurant? It's not any one thing. It's a multitude of sins, if you like. If a chef is good, that's fine. But if the waiter stuffs up when he brings it to your table, then no matter how good a chef is, it's gone. So it's the chef, it's the service, it's the ambience, it's the comfort. If a chair is uncomfortable, you don't feel happy.
And all this you put into your thoughts?
It has to all go in. And then you hope to God that when the guy comes in through the door, he hasn't had a fight with his girlfriend on the way. Because then that mucks it all up.
Now, do you agree with smoking in restaurants or the non-smoking?
I agree with non-smoking. I have been the supporter of non-smoking for the last 15 years.
And you've never let anyone smoke in a restaurant?
I had separate areas, but I am exceptionally happy that it's now going to be forbidden, as you like.
Being an Italian girl, I'm very excited to be in one of the coffee stands, one of the many coffee stands here at the Food Expo this year. Now, I've got the fabulous Max and Anthony of me, lovely gentlemen here, and we're at the Napolitana and Junior. Now, exactly how did your company come together? Give me some background info.
Well, the company is about since 1864. It's called Cafe Fantini, and me and Anthony just decided that it was good quality coffee, and we decided to import it to Australia.
Excellent. It's as easy as that. And how long have you been doing it for?
We've been doing Cafe Fantini for about a year and a half. That's all. It's very new on the market, and we hope to do a success. We're doing Saremo coffee machines as well, incorporating. And we hope to deliver our mark into Melbourne and Australia.
I'm so excited. It's a coffee machine. Oh, where am I from? Hey, I don't get asked this very often. Sicily.
Sicily.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Okay, my dad will come after you with some concrete bits under control. Have a coffee?
Yeah, they'll show the creamer, which is like nice espresso, macchiato.
A latte?
Look at that.
Thank you so much.
Guys, would you like some coffee as well?
I have to go to coffee. Steve, coffee for Steve.
Well, here I am at the Cadbury stand, and I'm here with Melanie, of course, the favourite place, everybody's favourite, chocolate.
Chocolate. It's easy to sell chocolate.
What is it about chocolate that people come back more for and they just want more and more and more?
There are all kinds of theories as to what that is. Some relate to what it does to your taste buds. Some relate to the texture thing. It's fat, I reckon.
It's fat.
It's
the fact that we're taking fat?
Melting fat in your mouth actually releases endorphins in the brain that give you a feeling of contentment and satisfaction, and that with the kind of combination of cocoa and nuts and whatever else is what does it for chocolate. That's one
Is that what it does for you, or?
No, that's the medical theory. That's not mine.
So what does chocolate do for you? Make you fat, basically.
Yeah, well, exactly. Make me fatter. So I'm not doing any chocolate.
No, we're not doing it, no.
We're doing your marshmallow, jelly bean.
Because you'd be here all day, and with all this melted chocolate, I see you've got a little white and dark chocolate in there.
Yep, we're keeping that at an even temperature so that we can use.
What's your favourite? White or dark?
Mine? Dark. I prefer dark chocolate. It's not as sweet. It's got a higher cocoa mass and a lower sugar proportion.
So what is the difference between, say, dark chocolate as you've got here, as the recipe sees the white chocolate, apart from obviously you just said the cocoa?
Thing on this, won't you? Because I'm going to tell you that I haven't got a clue. No.
Okay.
It's all in the processing. That's actually.
Is that more fatty? Is the whiter chocolate more fatty than the darker chocolate?
No, you can have white or dark chocolate with it. What constitutes the fat is what they call cocoa butter, and that depends entirely on the mixture. You can have a white chocolate with a high mass and a dark chocolate with a low mass, or vice versa.
So the lower the mass of the cocoa butter, the better the flavour, or the better the quality of chocolate?
No, the better the quality, the higher it is.
Oh, okay.
And that gives that
fatter,
really long, smooth, yummy kind of sensation on your taste buds.
Oh, you're making me want to have chocolate. And I'll tell you, behind here, there's 101 chocolate bars sitting behind here, and I'm just going to go down there and eat them.
You can have a
I'm going to eat them.
How are you enjoying the show today?
It's actually good, very good.
You okay? You haven't had too much
Lots
to
of
drink?
snacks.
Oh, look at this. I'm struggling to get a conversation.
A friend came this morning and said there was no snacks, but I have to say the snacks are great.
What are you drinking?
It's actually a little glass of Tokay. It's a little like a Sauvignon Blanc, but it's more of a Tokay.
And it's nice. Jamie Oliver, that's the dude.
Oh.
He's a bit of a spunk.
I know. Met him on Thursday morning, actually.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Met him at a little breakfast at Domaine Chandon.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, do you cook?
No, I work for a caterer. I used
there
to
you
cook,
go.
but I don't anymore. I kind of produce the menus or something.
Something along those lines?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool bananas.
So it's actually nice to actually meet the chefs behind the scene.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, have a fabulous afternoon.
Thank you.
And, enjoy your wine.
Thank you.
Have one for me.
I will.
Right behind me is the television screens for the main room, and we've got Jamie Oliver in there. And how the hell can you see anything from down here?
I can't see it.
Get on the shoulders! Get on the shoulders! Oh my God! You a fan of Jamie?
Seen him before, yeah.
Oh, you've seen him before?
Yeah.
Where have you seen him before?
On the television. My son's a fan. I think he reckons he is Jamie Oliver.
Oh, really? Bit of a chef there.
Oh, I think he likes eating and he likes showing off.
Oh, he hasn't cooked anything for you, though?
I think he has. I've tried it.
This is the son here, is it?
No, he's in there watching.
You're from England? Yeah. Oh, so you know this lad?
Yeah,
then?
he's a legend.
Oh, he's a legend?
Yeah,
and you a
mate.
bit of a connoisseur in the kitchen as well?
No, not at all.
You want to be a legend?
I wouldn't mind, but not for that reason.
Say you want it gorgeous. Beautiful. We all want it gorgeous at the end of the day. So let's just stuff that in there, right? And a little bit of olive oil on the tray. Just rub it into the tray. Put one fillet on there. And let's push this into here. How are you guys? You all right? It's been a long day. You've been hanging around for a while. Beautiful. You eating too much food? Drunk too much wine? Are you not drunk? No? Superb.
Into Miss Broccolini. How are you going, Miss Broccolini?
I'm well, thank you.
That's good. I think I'm more excited than Miss Broccolini.
Would you like to know what I am?
Please.
I'm a cross between broccoli and Chinese kale, so I'm very sweet.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help them. Join the Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do. 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global, acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "G'day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.